Check it before you decide who I am. Embassy counselor Jordan Hayes stood beside a police sport utility vehicle on a secured Manhattan block, his hands clearly visible while Officer Michael Turner held Jordan's diplomatic credential beneath the pale afternoon light. A sealed diplomatic pouch rested on the vehicle hood beside it. Turner looked at the credential, then at Jordan. I decide what gets checked here. Jordan's expression remained composed. Then record that you chose not to verify it. Turner glanced at the body camera centered on his uniform. Officer Adam Brooks stood near the patrol computer several feet away, watching with growing concern. Michael, I can run the credential number. Turner shook his head. Not yet. Why not? Brooks asked. Turner ignored him. Jordan looked toward the credential. You asked who I was. The answer is already in your hand. Stop directing the contact. I am directing you toward verification. Across the sidewalk, Samantha Lee had stopped near a coffee cart and raised her phone. Security cameras above the controlled entrance faced the entire checkpoint. Behind the barricades, Manhattan traffic moved steadily through the afternoon. Jordan's official sedan waited farther down the block after being rerouted by the temporary security perimeter. Turner pointed toward the sealed pouch. What is in there? Official diplomatic material. Open it. Jordan's eyes settled on him. I cannot open a sealed diplomatic pouch for inspection on the sidewalk. Turner's expression hardened. That sounds convenient. It is also something your protocol liaison can confirm. Brooks stepped closer to the computer. Let me verify the credential first. Adam, wait. Jordan's phone began vibrating inside his coat. He did not reach for it. Turner noticed. Who is calling? Embassy protocol. Leave the phone where it is. I was going to. The vibration stopped. 3 seconds later, it started again. Jordan could see the name glowing through the opening of his coat. Rebecca Moore. Embassy protocol. Brooks saw it too. That is the office he told us to call. Turner folded his arms. A contact name does not prove anything. Jordan nodded. Correct. So obtain the embassy number independently and call it yourself. Turner stared at him. Jordan continued calmly. You can verify the credential number. You can contact protocol. You can confirm my vehicle assignment. You can contact the diplomatic liaison. None of those require you to believe me. Samantha's phone remained steady across the sidewalk. A cold breeze pushed a paper receipt along the curb. Turner looked toward Jordan's official sedan and then back at him. You seem very interested in controlling how this goes. I am interested in ending a misunderstanding before you turn it into something larger. Brooks looked at the patrol computer. Michael, the verification system is ready. Turner's voice sharpened. Not yet. Jordan took a slow breath. He had spent years sitting across tables from people who confused patience with surrender. He knew better. Officer Turner, what information would satisfy you? Turner did not answer. The silence lasted long enough for Brooks to look at him. Jordan's phone stopped ringing again. Am I free to proceed to the residence? Jordan asked. No, am I being detained? Turner paused. Until we establish your identity and authority to enter. Jordan looked directly at the credential still in Turner's hand. You already have the means to establish both. Turner gestured toward the patrol vehicle. Place the pouch on the hood and keep your hands visible. Jordan complied without argument. The sealed pouch came to rest beside the credential. Please preserve your body camera recording, he said. Turner gave a short, dismissive breath. You should worry less about the camera. Jordan looked at the small red light on Turner's chest. Right now, the camera may be the only thing in this conversation that is not making assumptions. Brooks turned toward the computer. I am checking the number. Turner looked sharply at him, but Brooks had already begun typing. The screen started loading. Jordan said nothing. His credential remained on the hood, carrying the same truth it had carried from the beginning. 10 minutes earlier, Jordan Hayes had walked out of his embassy annex believing a 12-minute schedule change would be the most inconvenient part of his afternoon. 10 minutes earlier, Jordan Hayes stepped out of the embassy annex with a sealed diplomatic pouch tucked securely beneath his left arm. At 46, he had spent enough years in diplomatic service to know that important work usually looked remarkably ordinary from the outside. A charcoal suit. A dark overcoat. A leather document case. A schedule measured in minutes. No motorcade waited at the curb, and no security detail surrounded him. His phone vibrated before he reached the bottom of the stone steps. Rebecca Moore from Embassy Protocol had sent a message. Residence briefing moved forward 12 minutes. Jordan checked his watch and replied, walking over now. Another message appeared almost immediately. Your sedan has been rerouted to the east checkpoint because of the temporary security perimeter. Jordan looked toward the traffic moving along the avenue. The residence was only a few blocks away. He answered, understood. I will meet the driver there. The afternoon was cool enough for him to button his overcoat. Taxis moved through the intersection. A food cart released a ribbon of steam into the air. Office workers passed with coffee cups and phones pressed to their ears. Jordan joined them, carrying the sealed pouch like any professional carrying documents between meetings. His diplomatic credential rested inside his coat pocket. Ahead, temporary barricades narrowed the sidewalk near the residence. Officer Michael Turner stood beside a police sport utility vehicle while Officer Adam Brooks monitored the access point and patrol computer. The security alert had already redirected several pedestrians. Jordan approached at an ordinary pace. Turner stepped toward him. Restricted access. Use the public sidewalk across the street. Jordan stopped. I am going to the residence. Turner looked at him, then at the sealed pouch. This entrance is restricted. I understand. I am expected inside. By whom? Jordan kept his voice even. The embassy. Turner's expression showed immediate skepticism. Identification. Jordan nodded. My diplomatic credential is inside my coat. Turner watched his hands. Slowly. Jordan moved exactly as instructed, removed the credential case, opened it, and handed it over. Turner examined the photograph first, then Jordan's face. His eyes moved across the name, title, credential number, and official markings. Embassy counselor? Yes. Brooks glanced over from the computer. I can verify the number. Turner did not hand him the credential. Hold on. Jordan waited. Turner looked at the pouch. What are you carrying? Official diplomatic documents for the residence briefing. Can I see inside? No. Turner looked up sharply. Jordan continued before the refusal could be misunderstood. It is a sealed diplomatic pouch. Protocol can confirm both the pouch and my assignment. Brooks stepped closer. Michael, if the credential checks out, that probably resolves most of this. Turner looked toward Jordan's overcoat. Why are you walking if you are embassy staff? Jordan pointed toward the east checkpoint. My assigned sedan was rerouted because of this perimeter. Where is it? Approaching the east checkpoint. Turner looked down the block but could not yet see it. Convenient. Jordan's face remained composed. Also verifiable. His phone began vibrating. Rebecca Moore. Embassy Protocol. Jordan glanced at the screen but kept his hands away from it. That is protocol now. Turner looked toward the phone. Do not answer it. Jordan left his hands visible. All right. Brooks looked at his partner. We can call the embassy ourselves. Not yet. Jordan heard the words and became very still. The credential was already in Turner's hand. The patrol computer was only a few feet away. Protocol was calling. The official vehicle was approaching. None of those things required trust. They required only verification. Jordan looked directly at Turner. "Officer, what exactly are you trying to establish?" Turner answered, "Whether you belong inside that perimeter." Jordan glanced at his credential. "Then you are holding the answer." His phone stopped vibrating. A moment later, it began again. Rebecca Moore. Embassy Protocol. Across the street, Samantha Lee slowed beside a coffee cart and began watching the exchange. Jordan did not know her. He did not know that within minutes she would begin recording. He only knew that a routine walk of a few city blocks had somehow become a test of whether evidence would be allowed to mean what it said. Jordan Hayes remained still while his phone vibrated for the second time. Rebecca Moore. Embassy Protocol. Officer Michael Turner could see the name on the screen, but he made no move toward the patrol computer. "You can call that office from an independently verified number," Jordan said. Turner looked at him. "I heard you the first time. Then I am trying to understand why you have not done it." Officer Adam Brooks stepped closer. "Michael, let me run the credential." Turner held up one hand. "Not yet." Brooks frowned. "What are we waiting for?" Turner turned toward Jordan instead of answering. "You said you have an assigned vehicle." "Yes." "Where is it?" "East Checkpoint." "I do not see it." "Because the security perimeter rerouted it." Jordan nodded toward the credential in Turner's hand. "The vehicle assignment can be confirmed with the same liaison who can verify that." Across the street, Samantha Lee took out her phone. She had watched long enough to notice something that did not make sense. The black man in the charcoal suit was not refusing instructions. He was offering solutions. The officer holding his identification was refusing to use them. Samantha pressed record. Jordan's phone stopped vibrating. "Officer Turner," Jordan said, "there are 3 independent ways to resolve this. Verify the credential number. Call Embassy Protocol. Confirm the vehicle assignment." Brooks added, "The verification terminal is ready." Turner's jaw tightened. "I am still determining whether his behavior is consistent with someone authorized to approach this entrance." Jordan stared at him. "What behavior?" "You keep challenging instructions." "I stopped when you told me to stop." "You argued about access." "I explained why I was here." Turner pointed toward the sealed pouch beneath Jordan's arm. "And you refused inspection." Jordan's voice remained level. "I explained that it is a sealed diplomatic pouch." "According to you." Jordan looked at his credential again. "According to the documentation you have not checked." Brooks exhaled slowly. "Michael, we are going in circles." A black sedan appeared at the far end of the controlled block and stopped near the east checkpoint. Jordan recognized the driver. "There is the vehicle." Turner glanced toward it. "Stay where you are." "I have not moved." The driver stepped out and spoke with an officer near the distant barricade. Seconds later, Turner's radio came alive. Dispatch asked whether officers at the residence perimeter had contact with Jordan Hayes. Brooks immediately answered. "We have a Jordan Hayes here." Turner looked toward him. Dispatch continued. Embassy Protocol was attempting to locate Counselor Hayes for an official residence briefing. Samantha's camera captured the silence that followed. Jordan waited. Turner looked at the credential. Then at the sedan. Then at Jordan. "Officer," Jordan said quietly, "is that enough?" Turner's expression hardened instead of relaxing. "Turn around and place the pouch on the vehicle hood." Brooks stepped forward. "Michael. He is being detained while we establish his authority to enter." Jordan did not move immediately. You have just received confirmation that protocol is looking for me. Turn around. Jordan complied. He placed the sealed pouch carefully beside his credential. Please do not open it. Keep your hands visible. Jordan did. Samantha continued recording. Brooks looked at Turner for several seconds, then walked to the patrol computer. I am checking the credential. Turner turned sharply. Adam, wait. Brooks was already typing. Jordan heard the keys behind him. His phone began vibrating for the third time. Rebecca Moore. Embassy protocol. The verification screen loaded. For the first time, nobody spoke. 31 seconds passed. Brooks leaned toward the monitor. His expression changed. Michael. Turner looked at him. Brooks read the information once, then again. Jordan Hayes. Embassy counselor. Accredited diplomatic agent. Active status. His eyes moved to the final notation. Immunity status confirmed. Turner became still. Jordan remained facing the patrol vehicle. May I turn around now? Before Turner answered, another vehicle approached the checkpoint. Rebecca Moore stepped out with Captain William Parker. She saw Jordan beside the patrol vehicle, his sealed pouch and credential on the hood, and stopped cold. Parker looked from Jordan to Turner. Officer Turner, he said, tell me that credential was verified before you detained him. Turner opened his mouth, but Brooks answered first. No, Captain. Parker looked at the verification screen. How long did the check take? Brooks glanced at the timestamp. 31 seconds. Jordan finally turned toward them. His expression carried no triumph. Only the quiet exhaustion of a man who had spent several minutes waiting for 31 seconds of truth. Captain William Parker looked at the verification screen, then at Officer Michael Turner. 31 seconds? Officer Adam Brooks nodded. Yes, Captain. Parker turned toward Jordan Hayes. Counselor Hayes, are you still being detained? Jordan looked at Turner rather than answering. Turner's expression had changed, but his body camera remained active. The credential was just confirmed, Turner said. Parker's voice stayed level. That did not answer my question. Turner paused. No. He is no longer detained. Jordan let out a slow breath. Rebecca Moore walked toward the patrol vehicle and immediately recognized the sealed diplomatic pouch resting beside Jordan's credential. That pouch is scheduled for the residence briefing, she said. I know, Jordan replied. I was trying to deliver it. Rebecca looked at Turner. We called 3 times. Brooks answered quietly. We saw the calls. Parker's eyes shifted toward him. Were verification options available before the detention? Brooks hesitated only briefly. Yes. Turner looked at his partner. Parker continued. Which ones? Credential number. Embassy protocol. Vehicle assignment. Diplomatic liaison. Samantha Lee remained beyond the barricade, recording every word. Parker looked toward Turner. Were you aware of those options? Turner straightened. Captain, we were operating under a security alert. I was trying to maintain control of a restricted entrance. That explains the initial stop. Parker pointed toward the credential. It does not explain why you delayed checking this. Turner's jaw tightened. I believed he was attempting to control the contact. Jordan finally spoke. By asking you to verify my identification? Turner looked at him. Jordan's voice remained calm. I did not ask you to accept my word. I asked you not to ignore evidence. Rebecca picked up Jordan's credential case but waited before handing it back. Jordan? He extended his hand. She gave it to him. Jordan examined the card for a moment. Same photograph. Same title. Same accreditation. Nothing had changed during the encounter. He slipped it into his coat. Parker nodded toward the sealed pouch. That belongs to you as well. Jordan picked it up carefully. Turner spoke before he could leave. Counselor Hayes, I did not know you had diplomatic immunity. Jordan stopped. That was never the standard. Turner frowned. Jordan continued, you did not need to know whether I was protected from your authority. You needed to determine whether your assumptions were supported by the information available to you. Parker glanced toward Turner's body camera. Both recordings will be preserved. Brooks nodded. Parker looked toward Samantha. Ma'am, have you recorded most of this interaction? From shortly after it began. Please preserve the original file. Someone will contact you through the proper process. Samantha nodded. I will. Rebecca checked her phone. The residence is holding the briefing. Jordan looked toward the waiting diplomatic sedan. Then I should go. Parker stepped closer. Counselor Hayes, before you leave, I want you to know this will receive supervisory review. Jordan studied him. Review the whole encounter. We will. Not only the 31 seconds that proved who I was. Parker waited. Jordan nodded toward Turner. Review the minutes before those seconds. That is where the decisions were made. Parker gave a slow nod. Understood. Turner looked down briefly. I was doing my job. Jordan turned toward him. Then let the recording show exactly how you did it. There was no anger in the sentence. That made it heavier. Jordan walked toward the sedan with Rebecca, but Parker called Turner before they reached it. Officer Turner. Turner faced him. Captain? You are relieved from this perimeter assignment pending review. Report to your command. Turner's expression tightened. You are removing me because he has immunity? Jordan heard the question and stopped beside the open car door. He turned back. No, everyone looked toward him. Jordan held the sealed pouch against his side. Do not make immunity the lesson. Parker said nothing. Jordan continued, if you review this only because I turned out to be legally protected, then the next person without protection learns nothing from what happened here. Samantha lowered her phone slightly. Brooks looked toward the verification terminal. Turner remained silent. Jordan entered the sedan. Rebecca sat beside him as the vehicle moved through the checkpoint. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Rebecca asked, Are you all right? Jordan looked at the credential case inside his coat. I will be. You could have led with the immunity. Jordan watched the barricades disappear behind them. That would have taught him to fear status. Rebecca waited. Jordan looked down at the sealed pouch. I wanted him to respect evidence. Ahead, the diplomatic residence came into view, its windows catching the last light of afternoon. Behind them, Parker stood beside a verification terminal that had needed only 31 seconds to confirm a truth Turner had been holding in his hand from the beginning. The diplomatic sedan reached the residence less than 5 minutes later. Jordan Hayes stepped out with the sealed pouch beneath his arm and Rebecca more beside him. No one waiting inside could see the credential in his coat or the 31 seconds that had changed the afternoon. Ambassador Richard Coleman met them near the entrance. His expression shifted when he saw Jordan. Rebecca told me there was a problem. Jordan glanced toward the conference room. There was a delay. Coleman looked at Rebecca. A delay? Officer Turner detained him after receiving his diplomatic credential. Coleman became still. Before verifying it? Yes. Jordan started walking again. Captain Parker has already begun preserving the records. Coleman followed. And your status? Confirmed. Your immunity? Confirmed. Coleman stopped beside the conference room doors. Jordan, that is not a minor procedural mistake. I did not say it was. Jordan turned toward him. But I do not want the story reduced to immunity. Coleman studied him. Why? Jordan touched the credential case through his coat. Because then everyone learns to be careful around diplomats instead of learning to verify evidence. Rebecca nodded toward the sealed pouch. He offered several ways to verify himself before the detention. Credential number, Jordan said. Protocol. Vehicle assignment. Diplomatic liaison. And Turner refused? Coleman asked. He delayed. Jordan chose the word deliberately. Brooks eventually checked. How long? Rebecca answered. 31 seconds. Coleman looked at Jordan. 31 seconds? That is what the timestamp showed. The conference room doors opened. Staff members were already seated around the polished table. Jordan's place remained empty, briefing papers arranged neatly beside a glass of water. He crossed the room and placed the sealed pouch on the table. Then he removed his credential case and set it beside the pouch. Two objects that had spent several minutes being treated as questions now looked almost ordinary beneath the conference lights. Coleman took his seat. Before we begin, Counselor Hayes was delayed by a security incident. It is under review. Jordan looked toward him. And no conclusion should outrun the evidence. Coleman gave a small nod. Agreed. The briefing began. Across Manhattan, Captain Parker sat in a department office with Turner's body camera playing on one monitor and Brooks's recording on another. Samantha Lee's original video had also been preserved. Parker watched Jordan approach the checkpoint. He watched Turner stop him. Jordan complied. Credential presented. Brooks offered verification. Turner declined. Protocol called. Turner declined another path. Jordan offered vehicle confirmation. Then dispatch itself reported that embassy staff were trying to locate Counselor Hayes. Parker paused the footage. A supervisor beside him looked at the timestamps. He had several chances. Parker resumed the recording. Jordan was detained. Brooks entered the number. 31 seconds later, the screen confirmed diplomatic accreditation and immunity status. Parker leaned back. Run the timeline again. They did. This time they marked every point where new information should have caused the situation to be reassessed. The list grew longer. Near the end of Jordan's briefing, his phone vibrated. Rebecca, sitting several seats away, had sent him a message. Recordings preserved. Verification log secured. Civilian video retained. Jordan read it once and placed the phone face down. Coleman noticed. Everything preserved? Jordan nodded. Apparently. Good. Jordan looked at the credential beside the sealed pouch. Necessary. After the meeting, Parker called him. Counselor Hayes, we have begun the supervisory review. Thank you. I want to ask directly whether you believe Officer Turner stopped you because you are black. Jordan stood beside the conference room window. Manhattan lights were beginning to appear below. He did not answer quickly. I know how I was treated, he said. I know what evidence was available. I know how many times verification was delayed. Parker waited. But motive is something your investigation has to establish from evidence, not something my anger gets to declare. Parker was silent for a moment. Understood. Jordan looked back at the table. The credential remained beside the sealed pouch, unchanged from the moment Turner first held it. Captain, investigate the decisions. We will. Especially the ones made before anyone knew I had immunity. Jordan ended the call and slipped the credential back into his coat. 31 seconds had revealed his legal status. The harder investigation was about everything that had happened before anyone allowed those 31 seconds to begin. By the next morning, Captain William Parker had synchronized 4 records into a single timeline: Michael Turner's body camera, Adam Brooks's body camera, Samantha Lee's phone recording, and the credential verification log. The sequence was straightforward. Jordan Hayes approached the restricted entrance. Turner stopped him. Jordan complied. Turner requested identification. Jordan produced a diplomatic credential. Brooks offered to verify it. Turner delayed. Embassy protocol called once, then twice, then a third time. Jordan offered protocol confirmation, vehicle assignment, and diplomatic liaison verification. Dispatch later confirmed that embassy staff were actively looking for him. Turner still detained Jordan while his authority to enter was supposedly being established. Then Brooks entered the credential number. 31 seconds later, the system confirmed Jordan's accreditation and diplomatic status. Parker watched the footage again, this time focusing less on Jordan and more on the information accumulating around Turner. Each new fact should have narrowed uncertainty. Instead, the contact kept expanding. Parker opened Turner's personnel history. 3 previous complaints required closer examination. One involved a black attorney entering a restricted office garage with valid building identification. Another involved a black physician reporting through a hospital service entrance during an overnight emergency. The third involved a black engineering consultant arriving at a secured utility facility for scheduled work. Different people. Different places. Different circumstances. Parker wrote those words before reading further. None of the complaints automatically proved racial bias in Jordan's encounter. But each contained a similar allegation. Turner had continued questioning after practical verification became available. Parker ordered the files reviewed independently before anyone used the word pattern. That afternoon, he called Jordan. "We have a preliminary timeline." Jordan stood inside his diplomatic office with the credential case resting near a stack of briefing papers. Preliminary means unfinished. Correct. Then tell me only what the records establish. Parker looked at his notes. You stopped when directed. You presented identification when requested. Officer Brooks offered verification. Protocol attempted contact repeatedly. Your vehicle assignment was available for confirmation. Dispatch reported that embassy staff were looking for you. Officer Turner delayed verification. Officer Brooks eventually completed the check in 31 seconds. Jordan looked through the window toward Manhattan traffic. And the detention? Under formal review, including whether it remained justified as contradictory information accumulated. Good. Parker paused. We found previous complaints involving Turner. Jordan became still. Were they substantiated? Mixed outcomes. Some were closed without formal findings. One resulted in counseling. Then do not use my case to rewrite those cases. Parker leaned back. There are similarities. Similarities justify investigation. They do not substitute for it. Understood. Jordan picked up the credential case, then set it down again. What about Brooks? His actions are being evaluated separately. The record shows he repeatedly suggested verification and eventually completed it. Make sure that stays separate. Parker was quiet for a moment. You are being unusually careful about everyone else. Jordan's expression tightened. Careful language is not generosity. It is the minimum standard when consequences are real. Parker looked again at the timeline. Do you believe Turner treated you differently because you are black? Jordan took several seconds before answering. I believe he repeatedly discounted evidence while looking at a black man he had already decided did not belong there. Parker waited. Jordan continued. Whether the record establishes racial bias is your responsibility to determine. Do not make me your shortcut. Fair enough. And do not make immunity your shortcut either. Meaning? Jordan touched the credential case. If the lesson becomes that Turner should have checked faster because I had diplomatic immunity, then the next person without immunity gains nothing. Parker wrote something down. Jordan looked toward the sealed pouch on his desk. The obligation to verify existed before the system told him I was protected. After the call, Parker reopened Turner's body camera. He stopped at the moment Jordan first handed over the credential. Turner had been holding the answer before protocol called, before the sedan arrived, before dispatch spoke Jordan's name, and before anyone mentioned immunity. Parker let the image remain frozen on the monitor. The investigation was no longer asking whether Jordan Hayes belonged at the residence. That question had taken 31 seconds to answer. The harder question was why one officer had needed so many opportunities before allowing those 31 seconds to begin. 2 days later, the formal review moved beyond the simple question of whether Jordan Hayes had presented valid diplomatic credentials. That fact was no longer disputed. Captain William Parker now focused on a harder question: why had Officer Michael Turner repeatedly resisted verification after each new piece of information made his original suspicion weaker? The review team watched Turner's body camera beside Adam Brooks's recording and Samantha Lee's phone video. Jordan stopped when instructed. He kept his hands visible. He identified himself. He produced the credential Turner requested. Brooks offered to verify it. Turner delayed. Embassy protocol called repeatedly. Jordan offered an independently confirmed protocol number, vehicle assignment, and diplomatic liaison. Dispatch then reported that embassy staff were actively trying to locate Counselor Hayes. Still, the detention continued until Brooks finally entered the credential number. 31 seconds later, uncertainty disappeared. Parker wrote the number at the top of his notes. 31 seconds. Then the team examined Turner's previous complaints separately. The black attorney, physician, and engineering consultant were interviewed again. Their encounters differed in important ways, and Parker refused to treat similarity as proof. Yet one question appeared repeatedly across the records: once verification became available, why did Turner continue treating explanation as resistance instead of information? That afternoon, Parker called Jordan. The review supports formal findings involving delayed verification and failure to reassess the continued detention as new information accumulated. Jordan stood beside his office window, watching yellow taxis move through the intersection below. What about racial bias? Parker paused. The prior complaints raise serious concerns, but I cannot tell you the evidence establishes motive conclusively. Jordan nodded. Then do not say it does. You would benefit from a stronger conclusion. That is precisely when accurate language matters most. Parker looked down at the report. Turner will remain removed from the perimeter assignment while the personnel process continues. That is your department's decision. You do not want to recommend discipline? No, why? Jordan turned from the window. His diplomatic credential rested beside the sealed pouch on his desk. Because I was the person detained, not the person appointed to decide his career. Parker was silent. Jordan continued, if the evidence supports discipline, follow it. If it supports training, follow that. If further evidence supports something more serious, follow that too. But do not substitute my anger for your process. Across town, Turner sat with a department representative watching his own body camera recording. The video reached Jordan's question. What information would satisfy you? The representative paused the image. What was your answer? Turner stared at the screen. I did not give one. Why? Turner looked at the frozen image of Jordan standing several feet away with his hands visible. I thought he was trying to control the encounter. Was he refusing your instructions? No. Did he provide identification? Yes. Did your partner offer to verify it? Turner looked down. Yes. The representative resumed the recording. Protocol called. Turner dismissed it. The diplomatic sedan appeared. Turner remained skeptical. Dispatch confirmed embassy staff were looking for Jordan. The detention continued. Then Brooks entered the number. 31 seconds. Turner watched the confirmation appear again. Embassy counselor. Accredited diplomatic agent. Active status. Immunity confirmed. The representative stopped the video. When did you first have enough information to check? Turner looked at the credential visible in his own recorded hand. His answer came quietly. At the beginning. Later that evening, Ambassador Richard Coleman found Jordan alone in the residence conference room gathering briefing papers. Parker told me you refused to recommend punishment. Correct. After all of this? Jordan placed the papers inside the sealed pouch. Especially after all of this. Coleman studied him. You have immunity, institutional support, and every reason to demand consequences. Jordan closed the pouch. Immunity protects legal status. It does not make revenge into justice. He picked up his credential. If Turner learns only that he stopped the wrong powerful man, nothing changes. Coleman looked toward him. Then what should he learn? Jordan slipped the credential into his coat. That evidence does not become more truthful when the person carrying it turns out to be important. Outside, Manhattan lights reflected across the conference room windows. Somewhere across the city, Turner was still watching the same 31 seconds that had finally answered a question his own assumptions had kept alive for far too long. 2 weeks after the encounter, Captain William Parker completed the formal administrative findings. The report did not begin with Jordan Hayes's diplomatic immunity. It began with the first moment Officer Michael Turner had enough information to replace suspicion with verification. Jordan had stopped when directed. He had kept his hands visible. He had produced the credential Turner requested. Officer Adam Brooks had offered to verify it. Embassy protocol had called repeatedly. Jordan had offered protocol confirmation, vehicle assignment, and diplomatic liaison verification. Dispatch had reported that embassy officials were actively looking for him. Each new fact reduced uncertainty, yet Turner continued treating explanation as resistance until Brooks finally entered the credential number. 31 seconds later, the system confirmed Jordan's accreditation, active diplomatic status, and immunity notation. Parker sustained findings involving delayed verification and failure to reassess the continued detention as contradictory information accumulated. Turner remained removed from perimeter duty while the personnel process continued. Brooks's conduct was documented separately, including his repeated attempts to verify Jordan's credential and his eventual decision to complete the check. The earlier complaints involving black professionals remained under independent review. Investigators found enough similarities to justify examining them together, but Parker refused to label those similarities proof of motive before the evidence supported that conclusion. He called Jordan that afternoon. The administrative findings are complete. Jordan stood in his office with the same credential case resting beside a new briefing packet. What did you establish? That verification was available early, that Officer Turner delayed using it, and that the justification for continued detention weakened as new information arrived. And racial bias? Parker paused. The broader review remains open. I will not claim we proved motive when we have not. Jordan nodded. Good. You keep saying that when the conclusion is less favorable to you. Jordan looked toward the credential. Accuracy is favorable to everyone. Parker continued. The department is also changing procedures for sensitive perimeter assignments. When independently verifiable credentials are presented, officers will be expected to use available verification promptly unless a documented safety issue prevents it. Supervisors will review repeated complaints involving similar failures to reassess information. Jordan became quiet. That matters. More than Turner's disciplinary outcome? Yes. Parker sounded surprised. Why? Jordan walked toward the window. Because discipline answers what happened to me. Procedure may change what happens to someone else. Later that evening, Rebecca Moore found Jordan preparing documents for another residence briefing. Parker told me about the changes. He called. And Turner? Still in the personnel process. Rebecca leaned against the desk. You could ask for more. Jordan closed the briefing packet. More what? A public apology. A stronger statement. Something. Jordan looked at her. An apology cannot verify the next person's credential. You really believe procedure is enough? No, his answer came immediately. Procedure is only useful when people follow it. But it gives the next person something objective to point toward. Rebecca looked at the credential case. Your immunity forced everyone to pay attention. Jordan shook his head. That is exactly the lesson I do not want. Why? Because the next black man standing at a checkpoint may be a translator, an administrative aide, a driver, or someone delivering documents. He may have no immunity. No ambassador waiting. No protocol officer calling 3 times. Jordan picked up the credential. His evidence should still count. The next morning, Parker sat across from Turner during the final administrative conference before the Personnel Board considered the sustained findings. The report rested between them. Turner read the first page silently. Did Counselor Hayes ask for this? No. Turner looked up. Did he recommend discipline? He refused to recommend any outcome. Confusion crossed Turner's face. Why? Parker leaned back. Because he says the review should be about your decisions, not his status. Turner looked down again. Parker continued, he also said immunity is not the lesson. Then what is? Parker tapped the report once. You had his credential. Your partner offered verification. Protocol called. His vehicle assignment could be checked. Dispatch confirmed embassy officials were looking for him. Turner stared at the page. And the computer took 31 seconds. Parker nodded. 31 seconds. Turner lowered his eyes. Across Manhattan, Jordan slipped the same credential into his coat before leaving for another meeting. The card had not gained authority from the investigation. Its information had not become more accurate because supervisors finally accepted it. It remained what it had always been, evidence waiting to be checked. And somewhere between those 31 seconds and the procedures rewritten afterward, the question had finally changed from whether Jordan Hayes belonged at the residence to whether the next person would have to be important before anyone bothered to find out. 3 weeks later, Jordan Hayes returned to the same diplomatic residence carrying another sealed pouch beneath his arm. Manhattan had changed nothing for the occasion. Taxis moved through the intersection. Pedestrians hurried past with coffee cups and phones. The security barricades remained where he remembered them, but the officer standing beside the verification terminal was someone Jordan had never met. Good afternoon, sir. Credential, please. Jordan removed the familiar case from his coat and handed it over. The officer checked the photograph, entered the credential number, and waited. Jordan did not deliberately count the seconds, but some numbers stayed with a person. The screen confirmed his status. You are cleared, Counselor Hayes. The officer returned the credential. Jordan checked his watch. 28 seconds. Thank you, officer. He stepped through the checkpoint, then heard the same professional voice behind him. Credential, please. Jordan glanced back. A young black embassy administrative aide stood at the barricade carrying a document case. He appeared to be in his 20s. No official sedan waited behind him. No ambassador stood nearby. No protocol officer watched. The aide handed over his identification. The officer entered the number, received confirmation, and returned it. All set. Have a good afternoon. Thank you. The young man continued inside. Nothing dramatic happened. Nobody raised a voice. Nobody reached for a radio to summon a senior official. No one needed to discover whether the aid was important before allowing his evidence to count. Jordan watched him for another second, then continued toward the residence. Rebecca Moore was waiting near the elevators. You stopped downstairs. I was watching the new procedure. And? Jordan stepped into the elevator. It looked boring. Rebecca smiled. That is supposed to be a compliment? Today it is. The doors closed. Captain Parker called this morning, she said. Jordan looked toward her. Personnel board? The sustained findings were upheld. Turner received disciplinary consequences under department policy, and any future field assignment will depend on departmental requirements. The separate review of the previous complaints is continuing. Jordan nodded. And Brooks? His record reflects that he repeatedly attempted verification and ultimately completed it. Good. Rebecca studied him. You do not look vindicated. Jordan looked toward the elevator numbers. I just watched a young staff member get through the checkpoint in less than half a minute. Nobody knew whether he had immunity. Nobody cared whether an ambassador was waiting for him. The elevator opened. That feels more useful than vindication. Ambassador Richard Coleman was already inside the conference room when Jordan arrived. Jordan placed the sealed pouch on the polished table, removed his credential case, and set it beside the briefing papers. Coleman looked at it. Still carrying the famous credential? Jordan gave him a dry smile. It is hoping to become boring again. Coleman laughed softly. Parker told me you never recommended punishment. That was never my decision. Any regrets? No. Jordan sat down. If the evidence could not reach a fair conclusion without my anger pushing it, then the process was already broken. Coleman nodded toward the credential. And the immunity? Jordan looked at the card for a moment. Legally important. Morally secondary. Because the next person may not have it. Through the conference room windows, afternoon light stretched across Manhattan. Jordan thought of the young aide downstairs, standing alone at the checkpoint with nothing more powerful than valid identification and a procedure someone had finally decided to follow. That was the difference. 3 weeks earlier, Jordan's credential had spent minutes in an officer's hand waiting for permission to become evidence. Today, another credential had needed less than 30 seconds. The meeting began. Jordan opened the sealed pouch and removed the first briefing document. Outside, a translator approached the checkpoint. Her identification was verified. A delivery driver arrived next. Authorization checked. A maintenance worker followed. Credential confirmed. Jordan saw none of it from the conference room. No senior official saw it either. No crowd gathered to make fairness perform for an audience. The system simply did what it was supposed to do. Jordan rested his credential beside the sealed pouch and turned to the first page. Beyond the windows, Manhattan continued moving. Downstairs, another person presented identification, another verification appeared, and another ordinary afternoon remained ordinary because nobody had to prove they were important before the truth was allowed to matter.